All right, so thanks for joining the webinar today. Excited to talk to you about release management and deployments with Coherence. So we'll go through a couple slides. We will look at a demo of using this part of the Coherence functionality and leave some time at the end for questions if there are any. So yeah, and we'll definitely post a recording of this after we go through it for anybody who missed today's session. So yeah. Coherence is the complete internal developer platform. We're really trying to help you with your developer experience, and that covers a lot of different areas. So the one we're going to dive into today is release management and deployments, but just to cover a little bit of the other things that Coherence can help you get in just a few minutes. Ephemeral preview environments, so you can get what you'll see as part of the release management workflows. Unlimited ephemeral staging environments, automatic infrastructure as code. So these resources can sit in your own AWS or Google Cloud account, and a deep focus on developer experience, integrations into the tools you use, and not just setup, but what we generally call day two, which is like what happens after things are set up, your app is running. What are the tools you need to manage it? And I think release management deployments definitely falls into that bucket, helping you with deployment frequency. So, what is release management at a high level? Like, what is the topic we're talking about today? And I think, the way we talk about this is how do you deploy to long-running environments, right? So you have these environments like staging, UAT or QA, production. You might have all of these. You might have some subset of them, depending on how your team structures its workflow. And, the question is, how do you deploy to them, right? So oftentimes people have branches for each of these environments. This is the most common workflow we see when we're talking to teams out in the wild. And across all those branches, it can get pretty painful in the sense of like you merge something to staging and then it doesn't work as you expected. So you want to roll that change back, but UAT has already added another bug fix based on that staging branch. And so now you have to sort of roll back partial change for your UAT branch and the whole change for your staging branch. Maybe other people have feature branches where some of that code's been integrated. And, in some, that branch management strategy is effective and that developers understand Git, but it is a huge waste of time. And that if you probably were to survey everybody on this call, I guarantee you someone this week has spent half a day dealing with the kind of problem I just described, right? And is that really the best use of your time? No. What if there was a way to decouple your release management and long-running environments from your branching strategy and solve common problems that are critical to the kind of stuff we're talking about, like rollbacks and the various steps of deployment, right? It's not just code, it's databases, it's blue-green, which means like how do you stage changes to go live only if they are successful in starting up and only cut over traffic after that happens. You can even do a more advanced strategy on blue-green like Canary, where you roll out incremental percentages and include things like health checks and other startup probes that make sure that your app is working as expected before you start sending customers to it, right? So all of this area is generally what we call release management. There are some, additional one more things in that day two bucket that we'll get to at the end of it. But what are the benefits of thinking about developer experience in your release management? Having a great developer experience. Number one is anybody can release. When you have these complicated branch strategies and arcane tooling that is relied on to get code into environments and do all the steps we just went through, there's really only a few people on the team who understand those scripts and have the right permissions across all the tools. Whereas when this is in a dashboard and it's a button anybody can click, it's easier to let anyone on the team release, which means you're going to release more frequently. You're going to have less choke points in your software development process. And obviously, only if they have the right permissions, right? You're not going to let anyone on the team promote to production. But that's a decision you can make as to who has those roles and permissions. And, in addition to minimizing production incidents and deploying more frequently, just like how do you move code faster, it's how do you increase people's comfort with making changes so that they can, do what they know is right for the business and do it independently and always do it the right way, right? And yeah, I think that's our goal with the tooling we're building. So if you, are excited about what you see or you have other ideas that, based on what you see, you think would work for your team, we're all ears. We love to hear it. and to build a product that really benefits everybody. So, we're going to jump in and do some demos on top of this now, but, you can come in and go to With Coherence, try all the stuff we're going to look at for free today, and we will dive in now. So this is a application on Coherence. It's a AWS deployment deployed into one of our internal AWS accounts, and this is a landing page for a Jira type application. It's the front end of a Jira type application that helps with task management on Teams. It's a demo app that we often use. So I've got 4 different environments on this page, and I have an additional one for production and a different AWS account on this page. And what we're going to look at is sort of like what's deployed in these environments and how I can move code through different types of them, right? So my main branch environment, which is what all my developers base their work off of when they do PRs, is deployed to this environment. It has this URL and various environment management functionality we've gone through in other webinars on Coherence or in our demo videos on our site that you can look at. But that's going to look like this website. And yeah, I think I just stopped sharing, so let me fix that. Yeah, that's going to look like this website. And what we are going to do is look at a second environment we have, this branch preview, which is based on this Jira ticket ID. So the idea is this is a PR that someone on your team is working on based on change defined in your task management system. You can see I made a change about 26 minutes ago that overall the site looks pretty similar, but I've made some super exciting changes, right? And we've released a new version of our software. This is something we're really excited about. And how do we get this change live on our website is sort of the challenge we're going to look at today. What that's going to involve is going through several different environments, because in our software development lifecycle, we expect that people are going to test changes in a staging environment before promoting them to production. This branch environment is useful in that it's like a pre-staging environment. So if I wanted to show a product manager or another engineering person on my team or a designer to get feedback before I went to staging, I could do that here. And then, what I'm going to be able to do is use the Coherence release management tools. And you can see this is pretty simple. What I've got is the ability to promote to all the different environments we just looked at in our UI, right? So in this case, I want to promote to staging. And what Coherence is going to do is it's going to show me a difference of the commits I'm about to deploy to any of the environments. And it's giving me the nice, ability to see the URLs for what I'm about to deploy to. And if I had custom domains on it, it would show those here as well. So these are all the commits that have changed since I last deployed to staging versus what's on this branch here, right? So we can sort of see we've done a bunch of commits since the last staging commit we did, and we'll even give a nice little summary of what happened in all those commits. This is generated with GPT, and the idea is this can sort of be release notes. If I wanted to say to somebody like in Slack, here's what I'm pinging to staging, just a heads up, this would give me a head start on doing that, right? I might still want to tweak what yarn command I did or what these changes were. Some of the changes here are very generic, so AI can do a better job if they're more realistic. But this is the change we just looked at. Update homepage copy, right? I can even see this diff right on GitHub myself of what happened, and sort of like this is the types of changes we're looking at that we made. So in general, this modal is key to the release flow. It gives you a lot of information on what you're about to deploy. Then all I have to do is click promote. Again, depending on if I have the right permissions in this application, I'll be able to do that. And now if I go back and look at my staging environment, I'll see I've got a deployment queued up. This is going to go through the build and deploy steps for this application, just like the previous builds did. And of course, I can see all kinds of insights about build performance through Coherence for each of these pipelines. And that's a useful flow as well. And this is the normal workflow for getting code into an environment. So I'm going to promote this to staging. I'm going to wait for this deploy to go, which, as we can see, takes between 4 minutes and 10 minutes, depending on the nature of the changes that we're deploying and what else is going on in the application at that time. And then I'm going to run my tests against it. So I might have a QA team that's doing that testing. I might run some type of scripts against this environment. We just did a webinar on running scripts for integration testing using Playwright on Coherence. But you can do the same thing with Cypress or other frameworks. And we're happy to share that video as well with you after the webinar here today, and talk you through how you can use those tools in these kinds of environments as well. But you're going to promote it to staging. Maybe you're going to use another type of environment, like in this case, staging 2 or UAT, to test those changes as well. At some point, you're probably going to, after putting this on staging based on this branch, you're probably going to integrate this into main. So you're going to publish a PR on GitHub just like you would normally, right? Like we're not doing anything outside of the workflows in terms of GitHub that you're doing today. So all your branch protection rules and changes can apply, and you'd review this, from your team, get this merged into main, and then, be able to promote from main just like you did from this Jira branch, right? So, you can sort of come up with, based on your team and your workflows, what the right combination of branch environments and environments you promote to that are always there, that your code has to go through on the way to production are. The biggest difference with production is that this lives in a different AWS account, right? And that there's a set of permissions under my collaborators. When I invite somebody, only admins and release managers can click the buttons we're looking at, get that modal, and click promote to production. So that's really what's different about production in this. But for the most part, and we are going to promote this to production after we take a look at it and make sure it's good, right? But we can see this pipeline's running, so we're just going to wait for this to probably another minute or two for this thing to run. And we would be happy to collaborate with you in finding the right way to map your software development lifecycle into these environments. Our goal in doing this is to reduce the amount of long-lived branches that your team has to maintain at the end of the day. Because as we talked about at the beginning, that's where we see people sort of wasting a lot of time and getting bogged down in work that doesn't drive their product forward. So pretty soon, our build's done, our staging environment's going to be updated in a couple seconds. We'll be able to view the change that we just saw in that Jira branch in our staging environment. You can see when we create a PR, Coherence, if there is a corresponding environment like there was in this case, it's going to put all the information about the latest deployment, commit, what app it came from, in the URL right here. So, if I had somebody that was looking at this PR and doing a review, they could look at this deployed version, pretty easily without even having to go to the Coherence UI. Yeah. In this case, what we're waiting for is AWS code build to provision a worker. So this shows as the pending status in these builds. So you can see, this normally accounts for about 10% of build time in our builds. We could look at some previous ones. We just launched a product where you can see aggregated analytics across pipelines, which we'll do another webinar about sometime soon, but we'd be excited to get in your hands if that's something that's interesting for you. So yeah, our deploy is done. If I go ahead and look at this, we can see we've got version 2 and our super exciting changes live on our staging website. And so, my QA team would analyze this. We probably go ahead and merge this PR, right? Based on your workflow, you might have to have a certain number of approvers or have test pass or other things like that. In this case, this is a repo for a demo, so I don't have to do any of that stuff. And what we'll see there is that, now this is on main. I've got a build queued, right away with those changes. And I can obviously wait for that build to pass to make sure this, this passes whatever kinds of tests I have based on my integration branch. But, in this case, nothing else happened. So I can show you the promotion workflow for production. And similar to the staging one, in this case, there's going to be a different commit on staging than on production. So the diff here will probably be a little bit different. So yeah, more stuff has changed since this commit on production than on staging, but I can go ahead and promote this to production. And now we're going to see a similar series of events that we just saw for staging to go to production, right? And so in practice, these ability to manage these different environments that are not linked to branches really has helped us simplify workflows for teams and take them out of some of that branching trouble that they they feel they've wasted time in. We'd be excited to talk to you about the same changes for your team. So please, got some time left here. Let's use it for some questions. I'll just stop sharing my screen for a second. Say hi. Yeah, be excited to talk if there are any. But other than that, thanks for taking the time to chat with us today about deployments on Coherence. And as always, our team's standing by, ready to hop in a Slack channel with you and show you how some of these tools can work for your team. So yeah, thanks a lot. Have a great rest of the day, and we'll be posting this recording so you can catch up on this content if you missed it.